Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today's July 20th, and right now we are looking at the visible satellite imagery as of yesterday morning. You can see that marine layer in towards the coastal areas of Oregon, Washington, Vancouver Island, made it all the way in towards the Puget Sound yesterday for a time. But as we scroll through the daytime there, you can see it burned all the way back. Some nice glorious sunshine even for the coastal areas. And then we scroll through the day yesterday and you can see all the smoke being produced across portions of Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia. As we scroll through the nighttime hours, the GOES 18 satellite imagery shows very nicely here the hot spot that is that fire there across eastern Oregon. And as we go towards this morning, you can see it producing smoke drifting across the area, and a lot of smoke across British Columbia here as well. So this is where we are right about now. If I scroll back and forth, you can kind of see that little bit of stratus that moved down towards Whidbey Island here, Chehalis Gap, coastal areas of Oregon, already burning back here as we go towards the later morning hours. But we've got some fun weather coming up here. It depends on your definition of fun, though, however, because this is going to bring some more monsoon moisture back across our region here, and that could be producing some lightning strikes. And this has the real risk of starting additional fires here across Oregon, and even portions of Washington. The Cascades and Western Washington as well have a chance for some lightning strikes with this setup coming up here. So we're going to dive into those details here as we go through the video this morning. First things first, let's take a look at the heat advisories here for Portland, Oregon. There's a fire weather watch that I want to point out here, and that is because this convective potential moving up across western Oregon and portions of western Washington here. And you can see this is going to be really ongoing as we go from late Saturday night across southern portions and moving up as we go through Sunday, potentially including western Washington, isolated to scattered thunderstorms here. And again, dry thunderstorm potential is there, and the thunderstorm outflow winds may result in erratic fire spread. Taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center, this is that monsoon moisture associated with the isolated dry lightning strikes. Medford and Eugene is included today. And watch as for tomorrow, the rare scattered dry has appeared here across some of the Cascades of Oregon, all the way up towards the Seattle metro here as we bring this thunderstorm threat with additional monsoon moisture back up across the region. And if you take a look here, we've got some pretty warm weather all the way through Monday. So we got to go through today, tomorrow, and Monday before we start to cool things down. Relatively speaking here, I mean, you'll feel the cool down a bit, but the real cool down will probably start a little bit later on into the week. You can see Pullman 103 on Sunday versus 82 and 79 on Friday, for example. And what else here? Lewiston, look at 111 degrees as well. Look at Ritzville, 108. So very intense temperatures out there, no doubt. And a pretty impressive heat wave here. And Seattle's been a part of that also. We're going to go over those details here in a moment. But you can see Pendleton, Oregon, all over it also. Hot and dry pattern remains in place over the interior Pacific Northwest. So, to do, take it easy during the afternoon hours and make sure to hydrate. Now, look at Seattle. We're talking about, I believe we're on the 16th day now of 80-degree weather, and we're going to hit 80 again here today. So we have set an all-time record stretch of 80-degree weather. Back in 1994 on this day, however, we reached 100 degrees, the first 100-degree reading ever recorded at SeaTac. No precipitation so far this month, and even if we do get a couple lightning strikes and whatnot, it's unlikely to bring measurable precipitation here to many portions of western Washington. So we're probably not going to be picking up much precipitation with this next event coming in here. We average only 0.6 of an inch during the month of July here for SeaTac. Anyway, but if you want a nice affordable home weather station here, you can, this thing builds its own forecast for you. Click on that link down below if you want to buy one. It picks up lightning strikes around. It tells you when it starts raining. It stores all the data for you in the cloud. Highly recommend this station. And you can click around on here. And as we go through tonight and on in through tomorrow, you're going to be able to see these stations light up, and they will detect the lightning, and it will graph it for you as well. And it'll tell you how far each strike was and what time that strike occurred. It's very fun to watch this lightning activity here. And when it starts raining, it picks up, wind data. It's got an ultrasonic anemometer as well. Very attractive unit. Great smartphone app. Again, click on that link down below to save 10% off on one. So officially, Storm Prediction Center calling for that thunderstorm threat for Medford and Eugene out towards the Oregon coast as we go through tonight. And then tomorrow, you can see that creeping into western Washington, including Portland here and some of the southern Cascades of Washington as well. So what is going on here? 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. Relative humidity is what we're looking at here. So you can see this monsoon moisture down here across California and Nevada. And if I put this into motion, you'll clearly see the arrival of it into western Oregon as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning, and then spread up across western Washington and the Cascades. And again, this could be producing some lightning with very dry conditions in place that can start some fires and get some erratic outflow winds from some of these storms, and it can really spread those fires rapidly. So then it kind of pushes off here on the North American model into Monday, and you can clearly see the upper level trough will be rolling in here and starting to cool places down, probably putting an end to our 80-degree streak here for Seattle, for example, as we go on in towards the early portion of next week. Let's look at the European here, and we're looking at the same thing, 500 millibars relative humidity. That shows the monsoon moisture riding up through California into Oregon, across Washington here as we go on in through Sunday, and then eventually that trough will be cooling us down here, especially for western portions as we go into Monday. It'll take a little bit longer for places east of the Cascades, however, but this is going to be much welcome relief to the mossbacks here across the Pacific Northwest. Taking a look at the European is not too bullish on the lightning threat here. So we put this in motion. You can see it does pick up some of this activity as we go through the afternoon today. And then as we go on in through tonight to tomorrow morning, you see this reemerge as we go through Sunday. Starts to get out there into some portions of western Washington, though, and some of the Cascades. And again, caution, because the global models sometimes are not very good at picking up this lightning activity here, especially in these kind of setups with the elevated thunderstorm risk that will be in place. So if we take a look at the North American model, we're going to look at composite reflectivity. This is what the Doppler radar may look like here over the next 2.5 days. So let's put this into motion. And again, as we go through tonight, see this activity here. These could be packing lightning strikes with them as we go through tonight into tomorrow morning up across the Oregon coast. Heads up, early morning boomers could be moving up the Oregon coastline, up the Willamette Valley towards Portland. Western Washington could be under the gun tomorrow as well. Cannot rule out lightning strike activity with this precipitation moving across the region, including the Cascades as we go through tomorrow afternoon, then moving up across the region. Then we get that troughing that'll be cooling us off, especially west of the Cascades, as I mentioned. Now let's take a look at the high resolution rapid refresh. It has lightning flash density potential, and every 6 hours this model goes out 48 hours. It runs every hour, but every hour otherwise goes out about 18 hours. So if we put this into motion, we're going to take a look at what's coming as we go through tonight. This is about midnight here. You can see some of this activity creeping into the southern Cascades, Oregon, but look as we go into early Sunday morning with this convective potential across western Oregon, up some of the Willamette Valley, possibly including Portland, maybe Olympia, Chehalis down here, Kelso, Washington coast, then eventually the Puget Sound as you go through Sunday afternoon. Pretty strong signal there starting to show up. I have my doubts just how many lightning strikes we're going to get here across western Washington, but we definitely have the potential as we go on in through the day Sunday. So now a wider view of things here. You got Washington, Oregon to the right. You got British Columbia. There's Alaska. Here's the Gulf of Alaska here. And this is the trough hanging out here. And as we go over last night's run, you can kind of see a little shortwave right there helping to draw that monsoon moisture back up across the area. So that's it right there, that subtle feature as we go through Sunday. And then you can see this trough really starts to drive this onshore flow back into the Pacific Northwest as we go on in through next week. Look at that, just kind of hanging out over us. No doubt going to probably end that 80-degree streak for SeaTac, and then we're going to look at the extended forecast here actually starting now, because this is yesterday afternoon's European. We're going to compare it versus the GFS. Pretty good model agreement here. You know, it's good to see, but you can again see that shortwave that's going to be bringing that activity here on both the GFS and the European, and then you can see that trough kind of pinwheeling here and moving in towards the region. Onshore flow will come. We're going to cool things down. A little bit of differences showing up there as the GFS a little bit further south and stronger with that polar, I don't even like calling it a polar lobe during the summertime, but this upper level trough, let's just call it. And then you can see as we go off into the future, we still have some of this troughing kind of hanging around here. And the GFS wants to bring another, you know, we're not going to call it a strong system here in the summertime, but you can see there is some troughing here on the European as well. So there's probably something to that as you look at in the 200-hour plus period. No big heat dome setting up as of right now is the main takeaway from this, but that can still change. We'll continue to watch it day by day. If we look at the GFS ensemble mean, so this averages all 30 ensemble members. The GFS has 30 of them, and with all 30 of those, we tweak their initial conditions to correct for any errors we have in our understanding of the initial conditions of the atmosphere. So if I put that into motion, there's our short wave here, and then again, this is the mean, the average of all 30 of them. So you can see pretty good model agreement on this trough. It's going to be sitting right up over British Columbia, and that onshore flow finally cooling us down here across the Pacific Northwest. This one is hot off the presses. It's running right now as we speak. So we get about 150 hours of it, and that's about it. Taking a look at SeaTac, check it out. Another very warm day today and tomorrow. Then probably not getting to 80 on Monday if I had to bet right now. I mean, there's an outside chance we still could, but that's been running a little bit hot on the European, the GFS ensemble. So I think we're probably not going to hit 80. Definitely not one of those days. Where I don't think we're going to hit 80 on both of those days. So anyway, heads up for that. Probably putting an end to the streak. The national blend of models probably a little bit better representation of the temperatures are going to be coming up. But again, a very warm, hot day here across the Willamette Valley incoming, and especially east of the Cascades. Just been a brutal stretch of very hot weather here as we've gone through July. So this is today, 86. Look at this, 89 across some portions of the Vancouver Metro out there. We go on in towards tomorrow. We get a little bit of a cool down, but still above 80 for Seattle. And by Monday, look at the 77. That would put an end to that streak. And you can see the Willamette Valley dropping down to the lower 80s, but still very warm east of the Cascades for Monday before you finally start to feel that cool down here as you go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Look at that, down into the 80s here. So that will be a big improvement here for east of the Cascades. And we scroll off into the future here and we get, seasonably warm, it looks like, as we go off into the following week. But, take that with a grain of salt as well. And if we take a look here, this is the European. So I want to kind of show you here as we go through this afternoon, you can kind of see that little westerly surge coming down the street of Juan de Fuca here in the northwest winds down the coastal areas. And then as we go on in towards Monday, you notice these winds picking up. Look at this surge coming down as we go through Sunday night here. That's going to cool things down, especially north of Seattle here. And then we start to bring some of this gustier wind here for the east slopes of the Cascades. Got to watch out for some fire danger with that. As we go through Monday afternoon, you can see the westerly still roaring down the street of Juan de Fuca. You can see the strong northerly winds running down all the way towards southwest Oregon coastline also. So yeah, that trough's going to bring some onshore flow here as we go through the early portion and mid portion of next week. So if we take a look at 24-hour 2-meter temperature change, we're going on in towards tomorrow, and of course this monsoon moisture is going to be coming over the area, and some of the clouds are going to suppress the temperatures a bit here across the region. And if it plays out just right, maybe it'll keep the temperatures below 80 degrees for Sunday. I'm not counting on it, probably by Monday though. But as we scroll off in towards Monday, you see that cooling air starting to reach some portions of eastern Washington, eastern Oregon, as we go on in through Tuesday here before we start to level things out again. Looking at the 6 to 10 day, below normal here across Pacific Northwest, and you can kind of see the ridge axis will be shoved off to the east. This is above average precipitation showing up here. We don't get much for this time of year, so we'll see how that goes, because sometimes these troughs don't really bring much precipitation with them during the summer months. And if we take a look at the 7-day significant fire potential, this is for today, Saturday. Look at NW1. Clearly the lightning strike is there, and they probably should include that for NW2 as well, because it looks like some convection would be moving across them also. And also with NW3 and NW4, you think that would be included in there. It actually has NW4 today. But you can see we've got some critical burn environment. We've got some lightning activity coming in here Sunday and Monday, especially for some areas, especially eastern portions. And we've got some elevated risk for fires out there also. And I wanted to show you this. I didn't show this yesterday, but let's scroll back. This is what the forecast zones used to look like on the National Weather Service page. You could click on these individual areas and you can get an individual forecast here, but they really fine-tune this. And you can see as I scroll through here, look at all the new zones. They've really got detailed here, highlighting the terrain features in valley areas and coastal areas as well. Gives you a much more detailed forecast. So, it makes their job a little bit harder, because you can imagine they got a forecast for each individual area here, but it will make for a more detailed forecast, because, terrain and these features here are king across the Pacific Northwest. They make a huge difference on what kind of weather we get impacted with. It doesn't take much elevation during the winter to get some pretty intense snowfall around the region versus the valley areas and the coastal areas as well. And it makes a difference what kind of winds get forecast and all kinds of stuff, temperatures too. So interesting stuff to see them doing that. So if you go to the National Weather Service page, expect to see these new zones. But yeah, otherwise, some exciting weather potentially coming up across the area. Still not too bullish across western Washington, and some of the lower elevations. This could just not produce lightning out over some of the lowlands here. So there still is some uncertainty on just how much of this lightning activity is going to come out across western portions. But definitely the Cascades, especially the Cascades of Oregon, are going to be subject to some of these lightning strikes yet again. So we'll be going over those details again tomorrow. We'll take a look at it. We'll do a full forecast on it again. We'll take a look at all the high resolution stuff and whatnot. Otherwise, hope you guys are having a good day. I'm going out to the Sounders game today, so looking forward to that. Nice warm weather will be in place, of course, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.